Why? It is the question I am asked from faces of pity when I tell anyone that I am going to be a high school teacher. So then I ask myself, why? I guess it all starts with a little 4-year-old girl sitting underneath the tree in her front yard reading. Well, really the book is upside down the entire time. Anyways, as I said, my love for books and for reading was sparked at a really young age. It was furthered even more with the movie Matilda. She got superpowers from reading, and she was my age too. If you had asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I probably would have said a superpowered reader. I guess the funny thing is that being a high school English teacher might be considered somewhat of a superpowered reader. How many people can say that they are becoming their childhood dream? My love for education in itself had somewhat of a different beginning. I had always done really well in school. Growing up, it all came very easy to me. My younger brother Eric, on the other hand, who is 2 years younger than me, began struggling in school at a very early age. His teachers complained about his hyperactivity and his inattentiveness. He also had a very hard time getting his work done. He was diagnosed at a young age with ADHD and put on medication. Eric became a different person when he was put on medication, and though he was quiet and behaved in class, he continued to do poorly. There were many different trials of different medications, and still nothing ever really seemed to help Eric, and he never really seemed happy. Eric became very angry and took his anger out on me. Though I was bigger than him, I certainly wasn't stronger, and the physical altercations that we would get in would often end with me getting really hurt. Later, he would cry to my parents and say that he hated me because everything came easy to me. I was younger then and couldn't understand why Eric couldn't just sit down and get his work done. After years of struggling in school and having to stay back in 8th grade, my parents decided that something needed to be done. Eric was taken to a neuropsychologist and had lots of testing done. The results came back, diagnosing Eric with Asperger's syndrome of the autism spectrum. When those results came in, immediately a weight was lifted off of our shoulders, and as a family, we were allowed to take a collective breath because we had finally had the answers we were looking for, and we could move forward. Little did we know that Eric's struggle would only further from this point forward. We found that many of Eric's teachers did not understand Eric's diagnosis. Whenever teachers would come to my parents with complaints about Eric, many of them had not been informed of his diagnosis and felt really bad afterwards. This is obviously a huge problem and a detrimental lack of communication between the school and its teachers, as proof that IEPs, or individual education plans, do not always work out as they should. The other teachers who were aware of his diagnosis were often annoyed by Eric and his so-called laziness, because according to them, Asperger's is more of a social disorder, and Eric just didn't feel like doing his work. Eric doesn't have autism, they'd say. Eric's anger continued to grow, and he pretty much gave up on school altogether. He was skipping class, and if he decided to go, he refused to pass in any work and failed almost everything. He stayed back again. Eric was originally supposed to graduate with the class of 2011. He is still in school to this day. But this year my parents took action and said enough is enough. My mom set up my brother's schedule for him and did it in a way that is easier for him to handle. My mother selected which teachers he will and will not have and is a regular guest in his high school. If he does not graduate this year, we are going to look into different forms of education for Eric. And although some might think it is too late, my parents and I will never give up on Eric. I believe in many ways the education system has failed my brother. This experience fuels my fire and my passion towards teaching so that I might be able to help guide students who might be going down the same path as Eric, because not everyone has a family behind them who will continue to push them and care. Growing up and watching my brother struggle and experience firsthand how his personal struggles affected my entire family has molded me into the type of teacher I aspire to be. I cannot wait to graduate with my master's in education and finally get into the classroom. I hope to be the guide and mentor for any struggling students, anyone feeling lost or misunderstood, And I hope to maybe even encourage other people to become superheroes too, whatever form that may take for them.